Hallo, ich bin's, Robin, Deutschlehrer mit Core Languages, and today I have a question for you that you may have already been asked before. What would you do if you won the lottery, the big jackpot, millions of dollars? What would you do? Now, some people might say, I would buy a new car, I would buy a new house, or I would travel the world. Now, let's look at that last sentence. I would travel the world. If I remove the word would and said, I travel the world, I have moved from a hypothetical timeline to an actual timeline. If I say, I travel the world, it sounds like it's something that I actually do versus I would travel the world. I'm not traveling the world, but I would if I had the money. This is called the general subjunctive, and in German, the general subjunctive can be formed in different ways. In today's video, I'm going to show you 3 of those ways: would be, would have, and would do, so that you can incorporate them into your German sentences. I would say, los geht's und viel Spaß beim Deutschlernen.
The general subjunctive. There are 3 verbs that are commonly used in the present tense general subjunctive: hätten, would have, wären, would be, and würden plus another verb in the infinitive. The general subjunctive is used to contrast what is and what would be, such as a hypothetical situation. The English equivalents are had and were. For example, if I had time or if I were rich. The subjunctive can be introduced in a wenn clause or a when or if clause. For example, wenn ich reich wäre, if I were rich. To form a general subjunctive sentence with wären or hätten, we need a subject, a conjugated form of wären or hätten, and the predicate. For example, zum Beispiel, hätte mehr Zeit, aber arbeitet zu viel. He would have more time, but he works too much. Wenn ich jünger wäre, würde ich mehr Rad fahren. If I were younger, I would ride the bike more. The conjugation for the general subjunctive is a little bit different, so it is important to familiarize yourself with it. It's very similar to the conjugation of the simple past, but umlauts are added to the stem vowels, and I is added to ich and sie es for sein. Feel free to repeat after me. Ich würde. Du würdest. Sie es würde. Sie würden. Wir würden. Ihr würdet. Sie würden. Ich hätte. Du hättest. Sie es hätte. Sie hätten. Wir hätten. Ihr hättet. Sie hätten. Ich wäre. Du wärest. Sie es wäre. Sie wären. Wir wären. Ihr wäret. Sie wären. Du and ihr can also be du wärst, ihr wärt. One of the most common ways to form the general subjunctive is using the verb würden and the infinitive. I could even create a would be and would have with würden, but that is less common. Würden is used for all regular verbs and often with irregular verbs as well. In a sentence, würden is conjugated and placed in second position after the subject in regular word order. The second verb in the infinitive is placed at the end of the sentence. The sentence would start with a subject, Würden is in second place conjugated based on the subject, followed by the predicate and then the main verb at the end of the sentence in the infinitive. For example, würde Golf spielen. He would play golf. Aber das Wetter ist schlecht. But the weather is bad. Is the subject. Würde is in second position. And spielen is at the end of the sentence, and in this case, at the end of the clause. Hätten is used to express would have and does not need another verb to go with it at the end of the sentence. The word order is subject, hätten, and then the predicate. For example, wenn ich mehr Geld hätte, if I had more money, würde ich ein neues Fahrrad kaufen. I would buy a new bicycle. Now, the second clause in this example uses würde, and you can notice that kaufen, the second verb, is in the infinitive and at the end of the clause. Hättest du mehr Zeit, würden wir öfter ausgehen. If you had more time, we would go out more often. Sie hätten mehrere Freunde, aber sie sind nicht aufgeschlossen. In this example, we can deduce that Sie means you, sir, or you, ma'am, because it is capitalized in the second clause. You would have more friends, you, sir, or you, ma'am, but you are not open. Wären is used to express would be. Unlike would be, which is a combination of would and the verb be, wären does not need another verb to go with it. We have the subject, the conjugated form of wären, and the predicate. For example, wenn ich mutig wäre. If I were brave. Würde ich Fallschirm springen. I would do parachuting. Notice in the second clause we use würde, so we have another verb in the infinitive at the end. Wärst du selbstsicherer? Würden Leute dich mehr respektieren? If you were more self-confident, people would respect you more. Sie wären glücklicher, aber sie haben immer Stress. Again, we can deduce that this can only mean you, sir, or you, ma'am, because Sie is capitalized in the second clause. You, sir, or you, ma'am, would be happier, but you always have stress. Would do, or würden, and a verb in the infinitive is probably the most common way to form a general subjunctive sentence in the present tense. We need to remember that when using würden, we need another verb in the infinitive, but at the end of the sentence, like a modal verb sentence. For example, wir würden eine Party machen, aber unsere Freunde sind im Urlaub. We would make a party, or we would have a party, but our friends are on vacation. Notice in the first clause, würden machen. Machen is at the end of the sentence or at the end of the clause. Was würdest du machen, wenn du morgen frei hättest? What would you do tomorrow if you were free tomorrow? Notice that I said you were free tomorrow, but the verb used in the second clause is hättest. To say to be free or off of work tomorrow, in German we say frei haben, to have free. Let's practice. Üben wir. Complete the following two sentences by conjugating hätten based on the subject. Gern Schokolade. The correct sentence is, er hätte gern Schokolade. He would like to have chocolate. Du ein bisschen Zeit? The correct sentence is, hättest du ein bisschen Zeit? Would you have a little bit of time? Try to complete the following two sentences by conjugating wären based on the subject of the sentence. Du gesünder, wenn du mehr trainieren würdest. Du wärst or wärest gesünder, wenn du mehr trainieren würdest. You would be healthier if you trained more, or literally, if you would train more. Ihr spät dran, wenn ihr euch nicht beeilt. Ihr wärt or wäret spät dran, wenn ihr euch nicht beeilt. You would be late if you don't hurry. And how about this example? Ich würde in den Urlaub fliegen or ich wäre in den Urlaub fliegen. The correct sentence is, ich würde in den Urlaub fliegen. I would go on vacation, or literally, I would fly on vacation. And how about this example? Er würdet sich gerne ausruhen, or er würde sich gerne ausruhen. The correct conjugation for würden for the subject er is würde. Er würde sich gerne ausruhen. He would like to rest.
Vielen Dank fürs Zusehen. I hope you now have a better understanding of how to form the general subjunctive in German. As always, if you have more questions, feel free to comment, or if you're interested in joining one of our German courses with a live instructor, feel free to message us directly. Das war's, vielen Dank und bis zum nächsten Mal.